I'm Bonnie's.
You're not Bonnie's.
What are you?
I'm Gregory.
Alright, so Access Panel, which is the purple add-on for Springtrap that, in my opinion, is probably the most, I don't want to say misunderstood, because people understand what it does, a lot of people just don't really like using it or think it's that powerful. Now, before we get into anything, what I do want to say is I have seen some videos on it that have kind of misrepresented the add-on. And before we get in, let's just talk about what it does. Access Panel makes it so that the fire axe can travel through your security doors and will exit straight through the connected door. We'll get into the connection stuff later. While you're aiming the fire axe, you also get the benefit that any survivors within 4 meters of the security door trigger Killer Instinct. There's also another effect that when you're holding your fire axe up, you will see the number of the door above the door anywhere on the map. Unless you're on Area of Crows where you can't see anything because the map is so bright, even with the gamma turned down. Behavior, if you're listening, just add a stroke around the numbers. It's something that anyone who has ever done anything with art would tell you to do, so it doesn't blend into the background anyways. So, the thing people tend to focus on with Access Panel a lot is the passing through security doors thing. So I'm going to cover that first. This is not that good.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
And it never was. Even on the PTB before the change for the Killer Instinct proc, it was never that good. It's a gimmick at best, and when you combine it with something like Fazcoin, can be useful. The most this will give you is if someone is actually looking through a camera, and then you can just chuck your axe through and hit them. However, this requires you to know the door linking system and how that works. And there's some problems with that on why this doesn't work as well as you think it does for it. Now, what you can do, as I stated a second ago, is you can combo this with Fazcoin, chuck your axe through a door, and now your terror radius is on the other side of the map while you're undetectable. This is one way to use it. It's a gimmick way to use it, but it can be effective and does work. The other thing you can do with this is you can combo it with Party Hat, because you can throw the axe through the door, and then the larger radius means that you basically get Killer Instinct on anyone who is nearby the door. Now, the thing to be noted is that the axe does come out at the same trajectory. It doesn't matter where you aim it on the door at all. It will always come out in a straight line and hit exactly where it will every single time. There is no stopping this. So, what about this door linking system? I have done a few videos on this, especially when Springtrap was on PTB and a little bit after. However, looking through comment sections on other videos talking about Access Panel, I've noticed that some people still don't fully understand how this works, and it's not me condemning anyone or anything, I'm just making the point. So I'm going to explain it again real quick. So at the beginning of the trial, every single door is linked randomly. They can even link to themselves. 7 can be linked to 7, it happens. The way you know which door is linked to which, if you look at the number on the door, which, like this one says 1, the Access Panel on the side will say the door it is linked to. So if the door is linked from 1 to 3, when you throw the axe through 1, it'll come out of 3. Now to change the door that is linked, you need to go through the door to another door, and it will link the door behind you. I said door a lot. I'm sorry, there's really no way to get around that. So if you go from 1 to 4, 1 is linked to 4. This linking is one way. It does not link both doors. If you want to link both of them, you have to go back through 4 and go back into 1. And that's basically how it works. It's a tube system, basically. Now, the only other thing this really does affect is, one, tracking. I've used this plenty of times to track survivors, because you come up to a door that a survivor went into somehow, maybe they did it in the middle of chase, some survivors do it to try to catch you off guard, and you don't catch them in the grab animation in time, just check the Access Panel number. If it's 4, they went to 4, so you just follow them through to 4. The other thing you can do with this, again, is with Access Panel, obviously, if you're looking through 1 and the Killer Instinct proc goes on 4, if the door is linked, you can throw your axe through and hit them, as long as it's linked to the proper door. The other thing this does cause is survivors, when they look through the door, the first camera they'll be on is the door that is linked to it. Survivors can also affect this. Springtrap or survivors, it doesn't matter who. Anyone who goes through a door will link it to the door they go to. That is how it works. It is very simple. It kind of doesn't sound right, and I know a lot of people think that it starts linked, and that is what it's linked to forever. That is not the case. You can link it yourself if you'd like to. There's some convoluted things you can do there. So now that that part of the add-on is over with, let's talk about the other part, and probably the more important part, which is the 4 meters of Killer Instinct when you're holding the axe up. So here's my confession. I love this add-on. I think it's great, and I'm going to just be upfront with that now. However, the biggest issue this add-on has is that Bonnie's guitar strings does its job better.
No, I like it. This is brilliant, but I like this.
That is the unfortunate situation, and part of the reason why I'm not the biggest fan of Bonnie's. Bonnie's mere existence makes a lot of Springtraps' other add-ons just bad by comparison, Access Panel being the biggest offender of this. It doesn't matter how good Access Panel is, Bonnie's will just be better in 95% of situations. So, what about this Killer Instinct? So it's 4 meters from the door. Now this is the edges of the doors. It's hard to determine exact situations there. It is vertical from what we understand, so it does go up and down, but it is still a 4 meter... it's a 4 meter sphere, not a circle, not a cylinder. It's very weird, but the point is, the issues this has is that while doors do tend to spawn next to gens, a lot of times, because of how the door logic works, and because it has to be 16 meters away from another door at minimum, they'll be in weird spots, especially on indoor maps like Midwich or Larry's, but even on outdoor maps, the doors will spawn in locations that just don't really coincide. The other problem with this is that, as me and many other Springtrap players have mentioned to people, whenever you have your axe, it's probably a bad thing. Throw it so you're 115 as much as you can be. So you don't really have the benefit of having your axe out all the time unless you're purposely doing it and making yourself 1/10 the entire game. Something you can do with this, though, is that when you're in the middle of chase, throw up your axe, you'll hear the Killer Instinct proc, and then you know where to go. This leads into Access Panel's biggest time to shine, which is when someone's looking at you through a camera. And this is only if the doors happen to be linked, but if you hear someone looking at you through a camera, just chuck your axe through a door. Boom, bam, bop, you'll hit them if the doors happen to be linked. That's a conversation for another day, but a lot of times you will end up getting hit. You'd be surprised. And when this happens, you injured someone on the other side of the map. Problem with this is that, one, injuring someone on the other side of the map isn't that big of a deal unless you can follow it up immediately by going through the door, but even then, it depends on the chase you're in. There's a lot of factors there. The other massive issue with this is people don't really use cams. I've heard so many complaints about people saying Springtrap's weakness is the fact that he can be seen on the cameras all the time, and it makes him frustrating to play. I have played this killer for over 60 hours of in-game time, according to behavior stats. I can count on both of my hands the amount of times someone has tried to and been able to reveal me with a camera in over 60 hours of gameplay. I don't know what survivors you guys are getting. I don't know if it's my MMR. I don't know if it's SPMM. I don't know if it's just because of the time of day I play. But I rarely, if ever, see anyone using the cameras in any semblance of a way, unless they're throwing the match, or it's already over and we're just messing around. That's about the only time I ever see it. And unfortunately, that's the downside of Access Panel, is one of its biggest strengths is required for the survivors to do something that you have no control over, that a lot of times they won't do anyways. And again, it is only within 4 meters of the door. Its biggest purpose, its main purpose, is to find people who are using the cameras. That is its main purpose. However, while it can be bad and inconsistent, when this add-on does work, this is uncounterable information that the survivors have no idea you have. There is nothing they can do about it. If the doors happen to spawn in the perfect way, which isn't uncommon, I need to make this very clear. While the door logic can be a little wonky, most of the time it's still pretty good. It will spawn like right next to a generator a lot of the times. And then what you can do with that info is know exactly where to go, which door to come out of. And unlike Bonnie's guitar strings, if you enjoy having the undetectability on Springtrap, while it does have its problems, I know a lot of people do enjoy it, Access Panel lets you keep that undetectability. So you can still use it in a way that lets you play Springtrap in the more traditional sense. Could it be buffed? Yes, I think access panel could 100% be buffed. I think we could up it to 6 meters. Do I think it needs to be buffed? Not necessarily. My problem with buffing this add-on is that I didn't even mention some of the other things you can do with this. Again, you can combo it with things like iridescent coin, party hat, even like Foxy's hook, so you can throw the axe through the door, and when you come out of the door, get the haste as you're walking away. Like, that's something you could very easily do, and it actually works out better than you would think. But the other thing with this is you can use it in chase. Again, it's uncounterable info. It's anywhere a door is. I have caught people off guard with this because they're next to a door and they're hiding nearby for like a flashlight save or whatever. I pull up my axe and boom, they're right there. A lot of times I get this for door grabs because it's the only real way to know if someone's using your doors while you're in chase if you don't happen to be next to a door. Because you will get an audio cue when someone's using the doors, but you don't know if they went through or not. So if you hold up the axe and hear the killer instinct next to a door and you look over and you see that they are on it, then you can go through a door and more than likely get the grab. You would be surprised how often this can happen. If you're trying to get the achievement on Springtrap, Access Panel is the add-on I tell everyone to run to try and get it. It is the only real way to know without just waiting in a door and hoping the survivors pity you. But again, the biggest issue that Access Panel has is power creep. Now, it does not have the downsides that Bonnie's guitar string has. However, it does have a downside. It's just one that no one cares about. So the downside to Access Panel is that since the axe goes through the door, unless you shoot it from behind or specifically at the camera, you can't disable the door, which is a function that a lot of people forget Springtrap even has. Yes, you can throw your axe at a door and stop survivors from going through it or looking through the camera. You can still use it. They can't, though. It's a weird function that almost never gets brought up. But as much as I've been ranting about Access Panel, again, its issue is just its comparison to Bonnie's guitar strings. The job this add-on is trying to do is the same thing Bonnie's is trying to do. The difference is that this can work at any stage of the game. You can use this to get Lethal Pursuer basically at the beginning of the match. You can use this to find survivors when you have no idea where anyone is. You can use this to know what door to go through. But everything I just listed, Bonnie's does, with the downside of the undetectability, which, as I've stated in a few other videos, doesn't really help you that much. The undetectability is nice, but it is not that good. And honestly, that's the thing with Access Panel. As long as Bonnie exists, this add-on will get overshadowed by it, outside of its few gimmicks. I will say one really nice thing this add-on does do that a lot of people don't talk about is the numbers above the doors. When you're holding your axe up, you can see the numbers above the doors. And while this doesn't seem like a big deal, a lot of times it lets me pre-plan what I'm doing. So I can just be like holding my axe up and being like, okay, I want to go to that gen over there by 2. Okay, well, I know exactly where 2 is without having to like turn my camera once I go into the door. Which you could argue object permanence and all of this stuff, but it just helps a little bit with the brain power. It's just one less thing to think about. It's the reason why I run Lightborn sometimes. While yes, I could just stare at a wall and not get blinded, sometimes it's nice to just not worry about it, you know? It's one less thing I have to think about. But Access Panel isn't his worst add-on. Bar none is it his worst add-on. This add-on has a lot of good qualities and good functions, and if you run it for a little bit, you will see it happen. And the thing with this that it does have over Bonnie's, again, is that you technically don't have to go through the door to get or use the information. You can just hold your axe up. If you're not using your doors, like, directly, Access Panel really isn't a bad idea. Problem with that is then you're not linking them correctly, and then it kind of has issues there. But the link system is only really valuable if you're going for the gimmicky axe through the door hits, but it's not that reliable, but it is what it is. But again, it's not his worst add-on. We all know what his worst add-on is.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.
But it is an add-on that's very interesting and a really cool gimmick. And, again, behavior, if you're listening, the tech is there to make the portals on Borgo and Forgotten Ruins instance so powers can go through them. You literally have the tech right here. I know you can do it because the code is already in the game to allow it to happen. Just saying how cool it would be for a Hunter's Hatchet to go through a portal from the top of Borgo to the bottom. Oh, that would be so cool. It would never be useful almost ever, but it would also get rid of the frustration of portals. Anyways, that's a different discussion. But as always, let me know what you guys think of Access Panel. I know this, again, it's not a contentious add-on. It's just one that I see a lot of mixed opinions on. It's one of my favorites. I use it all the time. But I know for a lot of people it's just not worth it because, again, Bonnies exist. But I'll see you guys in the next one. And, yeah, bye.
Subscribe, damn it. I'll be back. I always come back, and so should you, you moron.